Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Villafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. We're here at the Hubbard Family Swim School. And just thank you very much for taking the time to be on the show today.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. So I want to start with you, Bob. How exactly did you get into the swim school business? Because we did a little research and we watched some videos, read some articles, different things like that. And you went to college and you did a lot of different things, but somehow you ended up in the swim school business. So how'd you do that?
Yeah, well, I was a lawyer. I was a corporate lawyer, and my wife was in the corporate world for a while. We have a big family, and I grew up in New York City as an ocean lifeguard, and she was a very serious competitive swimmer. So, in the late 80s, early 90s, the economic downturn put us in a position where we were running a competitive swim program called the Phoenix Swim Club. And as you may know from competitive swimming, it's a hole to pour money into. It's hard to make money and be profitable. So we actually started teaching swim lessons in the summer of '93. I had taught them as a kid in the ocean in New York. And we just loved it. We got into it, it grew, and then we eventually wound up leaving the Phoenix Swim Club in spring of '98 and taught swim lessons wherever we could. We kind of called ourselves the Guerilla Swim School. I rode a bike and to places we had one car and that kind of thing, and we taught in apartments, we taught in health clubs, we taught wherever we could, and we were building our first swim school. And then we opened our first swim school in October of '99 in North Phoenix, and then our second one in '07 out in Peoria, and then Mesa in 2010, and then this swim school in 2020.
Right. Well, congratulations on your success, because that's truly incredible. I got to ask, where did that passion for swimming come from? I mean, between you and your wife, why do you guys like it so much? Especially being in New York, is the swim scene pretty big out there? The
ocean is big. When you grow up like I did back there, we were very, very. I was on the beach every day as a kid, and the summers, Memorial Day to Labor Day.
The water's cold.
No,
right?
No. See, that's the interesting thing. It's warmer than California because you have the Gulf Stream, which circulates from the Bahamas north over to the Arctic and then down through England. So the New York waters are beautiful. The surf's amazing, and the beach community that I grew up in, and it rotated between the beach community and then the city in the winter. But we had big waves, big lifeguards, and that whole show. And then honestly, we got to a point where we were ready to leave the Phoenix Swim Club, and it was like, what do we do next? And we loved what we were doing. We had built a very successful Learn to Swim program there, and just said, let's roll the dice. Let's do our own thing. This is the first time we could really work for ourselves. So we had a bunch of kids. We had 8 kids, and some of them were older, some were in college, and we just rolled the dice.
You said 8 kids?
Yep.
Wow, that's
all ours.
How many boys? How many girls?
We have 3 boys and 5 girls.
Do the math real quick.
Yeah, I did. I always have to double check that. But we're lucky. Some of the kids are in the business. So our daughter and her husband, and actually one of our son-in-laws is also on our exec team, and so it's been great to have a family business. It truly is a family business for us.
That's amazing. And did it help? You said that you were a lawyer and an attorney. Yeah. So how long did you do that for? Did it help in getting started with a swim school?
Yes, it was I love my law degree. I didn't like the practice of law, but I was a corporate lawyer from, 79 to 92, and I loved it. It was great to be in the business world, and just economic things changed back then, and we had to make an adjustment. But I always tell people I use those skills every day, as even in documentation or learning to write or how we communicate or learning to speak in front of groups or to people. So when we had to go build our business plan and make a pitch to the banks, I have that background that, again, this is becoming a business. So being able to interact with our bankers, and one of the things we pride ourselves on is we run our business financially very soundly and with good financial monthly reports, so we don't get surprised, and we've educated ourselves about the nuances of profit, revenue, expenses, long-term costs, and those kinds of things.
Very good, because gotta imagine it's a huge liability. Did you realize how much of a liability it would be opening a swim school back in the 90s when you did?
Well, I don't think we thought of it as a liability. We thought more of the opportunity, and we've always grabbed the opportunity when we could. And we've had some stresses. Obviously, one of our swim schools has not performed to the level that we would like it, even though it's 8 or 10 years old. It's okay, it's just not great. We have 2 that are great, and this one is performing exceedingly well for only being open for 6 weeks.
Right. So what exactly goes into building a swim school? Because it's not just like building a residential swimming pool. Like, there's a lot more that goes into it, because you have different kids, different families that are using this one body of water, and you've got multiple locations. But just a bird's eye view for people, what exactly goes into that?
Well, I think one of the things, to back the question up a little bit, is you have to be able to look at your demographics. You got to find your right location in a certain sense of making sure that you know where you're going, and then making sure you know what you want to build. I mean, I think we spent 18 months designing this location before we cracked the concrete, and even then we were surprised. So there were some things underground that surprised us, nothing negative other than a couple of big blocks of concrete that cost us more to move than we would have liked. But we had to make this space work. But our demographics, we've engaged with real estate people to make sure we're looking at the right thing. We try to negotiate favorable rates. I think from a landlord's point of view, we're a great tenant. We bring steady customers. We're in 3 retail malls, so we bring steady customers every week to the same location, so they get used to coming. And right, we have a Dollar Tree next door, we have a Staples here, we have an Old Navy, we have a Cal Ranch right here, and those kinds of things. I was just at our Peoria swim school on Sunday, and I was talking to our neighbor who is a consignment store, and he loves us. He loves us, and we love him because his people come in all the time. So we're able to establish relationships with our neighbors, and then a steady influx of clients.
Right, thank you. And what do terms look like? Because I imagine if you're going into a building and you're putting a swimming pool here, the next tenant, if you're not going to be here in the next 5, 10, 15 years, probably needs to be a swim school. What does that negotiation look like?
It's a positive in a certain sense, because we're looking for a much longer lease than a typical retail client. We're looking for 10 years with the 10-year option. So we're not going to put $1 million into the ground and dig the hole and put the underground structure in without having the guarantee that once we're here, we can stay. So they like that in the sense that they're not paying, what's an average retail lease, 3-5 years. So they're not paying repetitive leases. They're not looking at unoccupied square footage and that type of thing. So that's a positive. And then honestly, our first location, we had to put up a $15,000 bond to prove to the landlord that we would fill the pool in if we failed. So you can fill a pool in, as Mike will tell you, it's not that big a deal. So you just break up the bottom of it if you had to and pour concrete over it, and then you move forward. So from the landlord's point of view, I don't see it as a big risk. And I think we bring a lot of positive things to their community.
Right. I'm trying to find the word for this, but what type of permits and different things do you have to obey by when having a swim school? Just a sign that says, don't run by the pool?
No, we've been very lucky. We have a very good relationship with Maricopa County in all of our swim schools, and I think we like to think of ourselves as a leader in the Learn to Swim community, and so they like our facilities. They like the money that we put into our chlorination systems and our cleaning systems and things like that. And over the years, we've been able to maintain and build a good relationship with them, so that when they come in, they see our inspect. When they come in to inspect us, our stuff, thanks to a lot of our leaders, is data management. I mean, I can bring up on an iPad in the pump room the last year's worth of daily tests. We test 3 times a day. So they come in and they can see that. They can see we're committed to cleanliness and quality. So, but you do have a foot in 2 boats, because in Phoenix and Maricopa County, the county controls the pool, right? We have to go to them for our approvals for the water, but the city controls the building. So we have to go through the city of Goodyear, the city of Peoria, the city of Phoenix, and Mesa to build the building and get it approved and keep it open and meet their standards. And then doubling up, we kind of have also the water quality and the pool permitting coming through the county.
Right, and I know this next question could be a podcast all in itself, but I'm a little bit curious because of COVID, what you think kind of, upcoming trends for, say, 2021 look like in terms of, because I'm assuming you got to be thinking about, consumer retention, all these different things, like how are we going to keep people coming back and, all these different things, like is there anything that has changed or you...
Well, we've reopened. We're sitting here in early January.
How long were you closed for?
We were closed for 6 weeks from March 16th to June 1st. And we reopened on June 1st. And we've slowly grown. We're probably operating at about a 55-58% of what we were back pre-COVID with enrollment. So that's okay. And it's slowly growing, even though Arizona's a little hot now. Our phones are ringing. People are coming. I think one of the most important things COVID-wise is I think our parents are comfortable here. They see our commitment to cleanliness. They see our commitment to spacing. We've reduced the number of teachers we have in the water and those type of things. And masks are mandatory and things like that. So our teachers are in face shields. Our front desk personnel are in masks. Our deck supervisors in a mask. So we have a commitment that they see every day. So then when people talk about it, they go to swim lessons or they're sharing the story of being at swim lessons, I think parents are getting comfortable. I think we're probably in a little bit, even 21, 22, a little bit of a reduction of volume in the sense of people not being as close together as they once were. We were in a meeting yesterday, kind of forward planning, and we had a kind of a tough conversation about, I don't know that our Saturday morning will ever be as busy as it was. So, but we're optimistic. Again, looking forward to the vaccine and the kids, but we had great response from our parents.
Yeah, I mean, we've been here an hour and it's pretty clean. It looks like an Apple store with all the white walls and lights.
Well, that's a compliment to Kathy Hubbard, who drives Kathy Hubbard and Matt Young, who's both of our marketing and graphics and that kind of stuff.
Both do a very good job.
So what's kind of your overall philosophy here at the Hubbard Family Swim School?
So we are really focused on the little guys. Our pools are 4 feet deep. The water's 90 degrees. We have a lot of babies. We start at 3 months with a free program. So we go 3 to 6 months is free. And then from 6 months to 2 years, you're in the water with the mom or dad or grandma or caregiver. So we're steady building blocks, we call it. I think one of the things that we're lucky about is we have good swimmers in our community, in our team, between myself, Kathy, and other people. So we understand aquatics. We understand the water. Kathy Hubbard had a book, Teaching Your Baby to Swim, in 1975 with our first son. Oh, wow. So she was getting him in the water, and we took him to the water when we lived in Ohio. We were in the Bahamas or Florida or New York, and our kids were very, very, very aquatic. So we had that even before we got into this business. And then once we came into the business with our educational backgrounds and our athletic backgrounds, it kind of came naturally. Now, I will say that I would put our curriculum up against anybody in the world. We've learned, we've studied, we've traveled. We're not against learning in the sense of we'll go see people, we'll go learn. We've been all over the world, honestly. England, Norway, Finland, Australia, New Zealand.
And we've heard you mention being in Australia specifically, and we know that they take things to a whole nother level in terms of, how they regulate things and their education and different things like that. Did you get to see that firsthand a long time ago and sort of implement that here in the U.S.? Yeah,
we've been friends with some Australians since the mid-90s, and we got the chance in early 2000 to go there, and we've been there probably 10 times right now.
Do they like to be called Aussies?
They do.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Just making sure in case I run into one.
Yeah, and you have to stand around when you walk into the pub if you're a stranger. So, but their commitment, they're 10 years ahead of us on swimming. Okay, an island nation, swimming is their national sport. Their national championships are on TV like our Super Bowl is on TV. So they're hugely committed to swimming. If you go to a hospital in Australia and have a baby, they give you a DVD about water safety and how to take your baby in the tub. and how to play with your baby in the tub. So they have a huge commitment to drowning prevention. They're an island nation, obviously. So their commitment is huge, and we have learned from them, and they have learned from us, honestly. We bring a different perspective. We have more of a focus even on babies than they do. But we've been part of their research. We've been part of the Griffith University study they studied 7,000 kids about early childhood development, and 700 of them were Hubbard kids. So they did surveys of the parents, and they watched, no, they didn't come here and watch our swim lessons, but they watched swim lessons over there. And they came out and said swim lessons are the best thing you can do for a kid under 4. It makes them brighter, faster, stronger, smarter. So we've listened and watched and tried to learn from them.
That's very cool.
Very good. With all the different research over the years, you've probably learned that water quality is something that you have to take very seriously, because you got little kids swimming in here. What did that research look like, and how did you end up with working with Mike in Exceptional Waters?
I was a victim of myself. The reality is, probably one thing that I would say is water quality is important for the kids and our students. It's more important for our teachers. When you think about a teacher standing in 90-degree water, chlorinated water for 20 hours a week, I basically cannot go in a public pool right now. I have not been able to for the last 10 or 12 years. Because when we first started, I was teaching 25 or 30 hours a week. Kathy and I we had a team of 5, and it was very small, and we grew. But even at the Phoenix Swim Club, outdoors, but we had liquid chlorine in our first iteration of the swim school at 32nd Street in Phoenix, and the warm temperatures, I lost all the hair on my legs, on my arms. I would develop rashes. I would do whatever, even though we've tried everything, every kind of cream, every time of cold showers, pat yourself dry, do that whole thing. And then one of the things we found as we went through it is, we moved to the Myox units for the liquid chlorine, which we make on site, and it doesn't age out. And then working with Mike and the team from Exceptional Water, we've been, I believe, at the cutting edge over the last 15 years. I mean, we've gone to, I think we were one of the first ones. We actually had to go to the county and took us 9 months working with Pentair to get an approval for a VFD drive. So we were the first swim school in the county to have a VFD drive, and they were very skeptical. Now it's standard practice, right? And they thought we would dial it back in order to save money. And we proved that no, we don't. That wasn't the purpose. It was, we're going to run, and and our turnover has always been committed to every 2 hours.
Right. And I love what you said about even protecting your employees, because even now during COVID, I'm sure they're wearing face shields and different things like that in the pool where things are rising, and it's probably if there was more of a smell, if you were using liquid chlorine, it would be even more uncomfortable in swimming around.
Yeah, and the other thing I would tell you, if you look out and back, our air handling unit, I heard you talking about your Airstream. Our air handling unit is probably the size of your Airstream in the sense that it's huge, and we're going for a turnover of the air every 8 to 10 times an hour. So our walls, if you walked out there, we don't have fog. If you're looking at a window, you don't see any condensation built up on our windows. So the air quality we work on that a lot, and then working with Mike on everything from the VFD drives to ozone to UV to the whole gamut of technology. That's where we want to be. We want our teachers to be safe, we want our students to be safe, and we want to be comfortable.
Right. And I know we're going to talk a lot more about this, Mike, but I'm curious between you both. When you have, say, a system like yours with Exceptional Water Systems, people that are using that body of water also need to respect that body of water. And we bring this up quite a bit, where you need to take showers when you're supposed to. You need to get like as much product out of your hair as possible. I have 2 daughters, and they've got all kinds of stuff, fresh nail polish. There's a million variables that goes into like things that can be in the water. So how critical is it to really respect the water in that sense?
We've lost that battle. we cannot get Americans to shower very frequently beforehand. It's just, and even physically, it's a hard thing, because you're getting a baby and you're taking a 6, 8, 10-month-old into the shower and then walking across the pool deck and getting in the water and doing those kinds of things. we keep our room at 88 degrees, so it's pretty warm. And I was actually in Finland one time in a health club and was getting ready to go for a swim stood in the shower, and everybody's naked. The guys are naked, but there was a female attendant who sat on a stool and watched us shower up. And she criticized one of the other guys I was with and said,
No way.
Yeah, she told him to re-soap up his privates a little bit.
Oh my word.
So
That crack's still a little dirty. Get in there.
yeah, so
wild.
we can't do that, but we do. We require swim diapers. They have to be fitted. They have to be tight. They have to be we check that. We don't allow the paper diapers or those kinds of things. So we're looking at those kinds of things. We teach our teachers to be aware, and you can sometimes I have had a lot of infants. You can tell when a kid's concentrating and maybe getting ready to have a movement, and let's get them out of the pool. Time to go.
Get the net. Scoop them out.
Well, but so we have a whole protocol. No, but seriously, it's a great question, because we have a whole protocol for that. That if we have a child that is indicating a problem, we have extra towels on the deck, so we get them wrapped up right away and give them to mom or dad, or get them out of the pool, get them away before a further problem occurs. And so, do we have fecal accidents? Minor. But again, it's a lot about education. It's a lot about cooperation. We have swim diapers at our front desk. If you forgot it, we're going to give you one. We're not going to sell you one if it's like, oh no, you got to buy it. We'll give you one. Bring it back. We'll wash it.
Yeah. I would think that it would be easier to shower going into an indoor pool. I understand the questioning in an outdoor pool because you want to put maybe tanning or sunscreen or whatever on, but when you're in an indoor pool, you would think that people would be more accepting of rinsing off.
Our international clients do. We can see that. We can see the habit has been ingrained in some of our people who they're here in America working, but they've grown up in an environment where you have to shower before you get in the pool. And I don't know how we win that. I mean, we actually had a friend who kind of built a little car wash where you walked under the shower, and that still didn't.
I was gonna say, can they make like a human-sized UV? You just walk in it and just be super clean.
His head's spinning right now. I bet he's
Let's
do it.
They probably has that already.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
like a tanning bed.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think about that, Mike? I mean, is that something that you discuss when selling your equipment to a swim school? Is that it definitely helps when we are respecting the water? Because at the end of the day, there's a million things that people can put on their body before going into a pool, and none of us are going to know exactly what those things are.
There is a lot. I have a totally different view on water in general. It's not necessarily about just for swimming. It's more or less goes back to safety for people in general. Be a little closer here. We mostly focus on the health aspect of water. So when you look at it in those terms, I look at a swimming pool for, say, I kind of use this in some of my articles and stuff, as a caged animal. Here you have this body of water and you're trying to keep it pure and clean for all the right reasons. Bob said there too, is one of the things is instructors in my book are the number one people in this industry, aquatics across the board, that suffer the most from being in water. And because due to all of the chemicals and such, not only that is, they also suffer because of all the extra kids and stuff that are being introduced on a daily basis for all the reasons that Bob said. So to me, they take the worst abuse in the industry. But going back to the water, it's like, how do we keep this water clean and pure enough for these instructors, per se, because it's just take the worst instance you possibly can and work on that. And if you do that, then you'll be successful. And that's where our focus has been. Fortunately and unfortunately, my main focus is not only them, it's also the kids, because that's the thing that's closest to moms and so forth. I mean, that's your child, So priceless. You know, once you grow old, you have choices and so forth. As a kid, you don't have that choice. You know, your parents want to teach you the right things. They want to get you in. They want you to learn different things. So, but nonetheless, so when we look at water, we look at it to try and keep it at its cleanest level, with the least amount of touching as possible. In other words, the least amount of chemicals needed and so forth. How do you keep it at that level and truly make it safe for others to get in there and use it on a regular basis? So that's kind of our focus. So most of the time what we do is we research and develop systems with ozone, oxygen, CO2. Those are the three main elements of what we use in there. And then very little other added products do we want to add to the water to keep it fresh and clean. So, you know, working with Bob over the years, it's been Bob's always been, he didn't know that, but I've always looked up to Bob because when I first walked into his swim schools, he was the only swim school that had 6-inch plumbing. It was like a commercial facility. I was like, wow, like this is great. Somebody that actually understands water. And most of the other swim schools had, you know, 2-inch plumbing and stuff. It's not even on the same page per se. So Bob had a great understanding. He had a great care for his instructors, and like you said, he was a family facility. But going back to the water, it's just a different, how do I say, it's just a different vision on keeping that water clean with the least amount of contaminants in there. And as he says, it's an uphill battle trying to fight people to keep them clean. Well, forget it. I mean, unless you just had like you said, like a car wash coming into the facility. Yeah, you got to go through the car wash before you can get to the pool, you know.
Yeah. And I think there's something to say for people that own businesses, but they are truly submerged in it, you know, because you might be, you know, water is something sort of spiritual to some people. And if you own a business like a swim school that you truly understand the benefits to it and it means something to you on a whole nother level, you're probably going to do whatever it takes to make that experience, you know, the best it can possibly be. And at the end of the day, like, the product is the water. If you enjoy the way the water feels and smells and all these different things, then, you know, your business should flourish.
Absolutely.
Well, Kathy Hubbard is like that. I mean, if we go on vacation or somewhere, she's in a pool and she's out just in the middle floating and almost asleep. So she just uses it. She's, again, been super comfortable in the water her whole life. So it comes into our philosophy as well. A little bit, to make another jump, it ties into our curriculum. We want the kids to be comfortable underwater, not on top of the water. Yeah. We want them to be one. We talk about being one with the water so that they're engaged with the water and not fighting it. We see the kids that swim across the pool and they're swimming to stay on top of the water. But when you have a kid who's comfortable underwater, they can make the choice. They can make their decisions. They can swim. It doesn't have to be pretty, but it can be slow, and you can have your buoyancy and breath control and those type of things, which is crucial to being a successful swimmer.
Yeah, and I love the things that I've read about. You really do need consistent classes, because I've had my daughters in for over a year now, and it's important to keep going, because you're not gonna, I know that they think that they've learned everything by getting a couple ribbons or whatever it means, but I'm like, I'm still watching. You're still not that good. Like, if I weren't out here, you'd be screwed. Like, I'm just make sure that we understand all of that.
Well, I think one of the things that's even in our community out here that people don't understand how a child changes from September to May. When we talk to our teachers, one of our most dangerous times of the year is May, late April and early May, because pools are opening and kids who were not in the water consistently through the fall and the winter and the early spring, you know, all of a sudden they think they know, and they get in the pool and their body is a third longer and a couple more pounds, and their arms are longer and their legs are longer, and they have to reacclimate. They have to get their muscle memory back to where it was 9 months ago. And you know, we say they're writing checks their bodies can't cash. You know, they used to be able to swim across the pool, but they get in it, it's colder, it's, you know, those things. So thinking about staying in the water is crucial through through the winter months, and it really helps development.
Right.
Yeah, and you're talking about a lot of turnover, right? You deal with a lot of children. So what does the operational side of things kind of look like with preparing for that? And then if you do have incidents or things, what does that kind of look like for you?
So for us, it's small group classes. So it's one instructor to 3 or 4 kids most of the time. And if it's a parent class, we 1 to 5 or 6 in the parent class. And again, in today's world, spacing, 6-foot spacing and that type of thing. But, our teachers, it's half hour, and our teachers are here on 4 to 5 hour shifts. We have a deck supervisor out on the pool deck all the time, bigger sessions. We have a water watcher on deck as well. But again, counting on the equipment is crucial. It has to be solid. It has to not fail. It has to be. But we have, again, thanks to our team and working with Mike's team, all of our managers have software on their phones that will alert them in the middle of the night if we lose temperature, if we lose our chlorination level is down, or we lose equipment. And then we're very rigorous on, our team comes in early, they test the water 3 times a day. They test it in the morning, they test it at noon, and they test it before they leave at night. So we're monitoring that constantly, and being able to stay on top of that, I think, is crucial. And again, working with we did commit to 6 and 8 inch pipes in our very first swim school, luckily, and so our turnover has always been in the 90 to 2 hour range, and we just believe that makes things better. And the more you're cleaning it, the more you're rotating it. I think our rim flow gutters help too. So all of our facilities have rim flow gutters, and so you're not counting on a skimmer. You're not counting on the turbulence of the water to get the water moved into the cleaning system. So we can do that, and we can we can isolate the water too. We can isolate the water out of the gutters or just in the pool. And let's say we have a little kid sit on the side and he has an accident into the gutters, we can shut those down and the pool stays active, that type of thing. But everybody is trained on cleanliness, fecal cleanup, that type of thing. We get everybody out of the water. We comply with the regular standards of, if you can basically scoop it out. We have maybe once a year we wind up having to close down because of a spread of diarrhea or something like that. But we can usually handle it locally and move on.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it for sure. So let's talk about more of that equipment side of things. How did you meet Mike, and how did that relationship kind of start?
I don't even remember. It's gone on so long. It's just, we came together in a variety of things. Mike is also very active in the community and teaching, like pool operator courses. And actually, I remember one time one of our team members was taking the pool operators course, and they said, well, the teacher said if anybody wanted to see what he was talking about, they should go to Hubbard and look in their pump room. So we got connected probably right after our first swim school got opened, and we've just been kind of growing and working together. We've tried different things. We had Myox, we didn't like Myox. Now then they fixed their problem, and we've done hypochlorite, we've done liquid chlorine, we've done a variety of different things. So our learning curve, and then we've had, again, as we talked very early, VFD drives, we had UV, thanks to Mike, and now we're into oxygen. And I love the CO2. I love the fact that we got rid of the acid. That's a big mental relief to me personally, not having that. We have a little backup on site if we need it, but the CO2 aspect of what we're doing, I love.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like you're just constantly trying to learn and improve, which a lot of people don't do. They set something in place and leave it, but it seems like you guys have really stayed the course on that.
I think our first at 32nd Street, we put in DE filters that were as big as space shuttles. And then when we changed those out, we literally had to come in and bring in a welder and cut them up because they wouldn't go out the door.
That grid's the size of a car hood. Just spraying them out. I can't even imagine like a giant.
Oh yeah, it was probably, I don't know, 10 feet high and a diameter of 3 to 4 feet. Wow. I mean, to handle the pool at 50,000 gallons at the rate we wanted.
Who makes that?
I don't remember. It was
insane.
It was, oh my gosh. We you know what? We rolled the dice early and we put it in, and we actually built the room around it. And then And then, you know, technology changed. We started looking at California where they were making DE hazardous waste, and I was like, whoa, let's think about this. So we've made moves to sand filters, we've made moves to now cartridge filters and different things. So we're trying to keep ahead. Nice.
Yeah, so Mike, tell us about the system here at this location that you guys now have installed. I know it's pretty complex, which we're gonna go hang out in later, but what'd you guys do here specifically?
Which we're gonna kick this off. Justin Bowe, as we said, is the one that was showing some of the pictures of what happened in here, and he was stoked on it. I was just like, dude, this is insane. And what am I looking at? Because there's a lot. He's like, dude, you have to see it in person. I was just like, dude, we need to do a podcast on this. So thank you, Justin, for making it happen.
Absolutely. When we are designing this, actually, this has actually been the first pump room that entails all of our technologies even up to date. So this is actually like a dream pump room, honestly. And it's probably one of its only kind in the world. And it was very methodical, believe it or not, going into this design and so forth. There's a lot more to it than you just walk in there and see. I know it's kind of overwhelming walking in there and seeing all the equipment, but there's a huge amount of reasoning behind it. The sequencing that goes into it, the velocities, the hydraulics, the pressures, the vacuum, all of that stuff entailed into this pump room. Not to mention, first and foremost, going back, it's always based around people. So how is this going to help out with the Hubbard family and so forth, and just students in general and the instructors and stuff. But nonetheless, we took all of the ideal settings. So first and foremost is pump and filter for any pump room. Wrote an article about how important that first portion is. Most people miss that point, but to get your pump and filter down first and foremost, hour and a half, like Bob was saying. It's a statistical number when you're looking at it. So to get a turnover rate in an hour and a half is great, but how good is that turnover rate? And what I mean by that is how well is it being filtered in that first hour and a half? Because you're only getting, for say, 60% of your water is actually seeing the pump room. So how good of a job is it actually doing? So research shows that if your filter media rate is correct, you can get, let's say starting off, most builders go at about 15 gallons per minute on their filter media rate, which is actually only about a 35% efficiency, which is not much if you really think about it, but that's a standard in the US. Looking at European standards, if we get it down to 10 or less, and Bob's filter media rate here is about 9.2. So that's one. So that puts us in the 90 percentile as far as efficiency for removing stuff from this pool. So now I know that every hour and a half, 60% of that water is being treated with 95% plus efficiency rate. So, and then of course now it goes down to the media. Now what type of media you use? So we use glass media. So we technically in here, if we actually did the study and so forth, we're probably pulling out about 3 microns from there. And we can actually get better. But the other thing we take into account when starting off right here is the longevity of his equipment. So Bob was saying, he's gone through all sorts of different types of equipment, like he said. But I look at things that are simple. His big thing is if he has turnover and so forth, employees and stuff, it's got to be simple for them to use. The more complex you get in electronics and all this other stuff, it's just harder for him to go through the process of training, plus replacement costs and so forth, ongoing service. I'd be in the same boat. So I treat this as if it's my facility. This is my pump room. How would I build it? How would I want to service? I started off doing service as well, so I understand that side of it. But so that's the first step in there. UV was added to that. Bob's a proponent of utilizing UV. UV does have its purpose in the industry and so forth. So once again, 100% of the water goes through that UV treatment system. We have the sanitizing effect that we want in there. And then we also added in ozone to the mix. Unlike a standard ozone systems use about a 20% side stream is what they treat. But what I really never understood is, you know, they always talk about, well, you got a 3-log removal and you got to have more contact time with the water and this and that with the ozone and so forth. It's based on that. And they use, once again, a side stream. So if you think about that, this is where my brain kicks in and going, what's the use of it? So if I only have 60% of my water seen in the first turnover, but only 20% of that 60% is actually being treated. So if you don't have a good turnover rate, let's say if you're at a standard, which is maybe 5 or 6 hours, well, after 5 or 6 hours, 60% of the water is being treated. You have hundreds of kids go through that time period, and you've only treated 20% of that 60% in that time period. So how good is that system if you're only treating a fraction of that water? So it still goes back to, well, UV was a better choice, right? But UV isn't the say-all, end-all type of system, because it doesn't do any oxidizing for the water. It's more or less just kind of like a sanitizer. It inhibits the microorganisms from reproducing, so forth. So what we did was, you know, I started researching more and more, and I wanted to run 100% of the water through ozone. And the reason why I was pushed so far on that is doing a lot of research and studies on ozone in different industries as well, not just in the aquatics. Actually, most of my research was outside the aquatics industry, not here. And we won't get into that too much, but for various reasons. But ozone is 20 to 3,000 times stronger than chlorine. So we're already starting at a minimal level of 20 times stronger than what we normally use, which I really liked. It's 10,000 times more effective at killing microorganisms than chlorine. So to me, it's not even on the same page. So, and if I'm going to be the guy standing forth and I want to put my children in this body of water, what am I going to do to treat it? So I always put myself first in those situations and say, would I put my kids and so forth in this type of a facility? And here, absolutely, hands down, there's no questions about it. This is one of the best, like I said, facilities I could have ever designed. So when we add the ozone to the mix, we actually are treating 100% of the water. So there, not only we have the 100% through the UV, now we have another 100% being treated from the ozone system. So, but with the added technology, so this is where it's really kind of cool. This is where it starts changing, because we're gonna come back around for a second. So bear with me. So the first step of this, when we add our what called ultrafine technology to this, an ozone bubble that's produced from a typical Venturi is about 10 microns. We fit about 1 billion ultrafine bubbles inside of one 10 micron bubble, which is the smallest bubble from a standard ozone system. Okay, so it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around that. How many bubbles are actually in those tanks? Well, ozone is based on the premise of contact time and area. Okay, so the more contact area you have, the better disinfecting you have of the water. So I just immensely increase that contact area. And that's why I run 100% of those bubbles through that system. And you'll be able to see it when we go back there. So I made special tanks for them, special contact tanks, so that the water touches, or the ozone touches every last drop of water going back to the pool.
So what exact piece of commercial equipment is being used, or is all of this custom made?
Aquagen. It's an Aquagen Ultra is our newest one. That's one that runs oxygen and ozone through it. So
And is this like pulling oxygen in and then distributing it?
it actually uses a type of medical grade concentrator, oxygen concentrator. So it pulls in normal ambient air, converts and cleans all of that stuff out of there, the nitrogen, the carbon, all of that stuff out of the air. And it runs it through just like you would at a hospital and so forth. And then it runs it through the ozone system. Creates ozone, comes back out of the ozone. Then it goes through the diffusion system, which is Aquagen Ultra. That's our commercial version. And then it diffuses it into the water. So that's where we get the millions and millions of bubbles in there.
And you can't see them, or you can?
You cannot see those. So you'll be able to see in the contact tanks, you'll see some of the larger bubbles and so forth. But right now, if you were to look at the pool, you wouldn't see anything. But there's literally...
Just like a return?
What's that?
Like the movement of water, is that usually what the only thing you can see is, like, you know, when there's like a return jet that's just returning, you know, where you just see like the swirls? Like that's all you see?
Yeah, you'll see just normal. But the water is actually super clear. Believe it or not, the addition of the bubbles to it, this was kind of something that we learned early on, probably about 10 years ago, was the addition of ultrafine to the water super enhances the clarity. And there's a theory behind that, and there's actually a reasoning scientific proof that tells you why that is, but the bubbles are negatively charged. So, but as we add this ozone back to the water and so forth, that ozone actually carries back to the pool. So if we were to turn off his chlorination system, we could actually measure about a half a part, up to about a half a part per million of sanitizer in the water. Doesn't mean it's chlorine, it's sanitizer. With the right test kits and so forth, you can actually measure that. So that was one of the questions we get a lot of time is can we just run this and not have chlorine? Well, not according to county. You're not allowed. You got to have at least 1 part per million. But if they had the right test kit, you could actually say, yeah, I have 1 part per million in there. And if we upsize the system a bit, yeah, he could run in here totally chlorine free and maintain that level of sanitation that he needs.
Right, and with that complex of equipment, do you have a software or some type of automation that's showing these readings, or is it, you know, connecting to like a swim school's custom software that is, you know, made? How does that work exactly?
We actually have to use what's called a prominent controller. Chemical controller, we do not run off of ORP. So most industries, and most of that time you run off of ORP to say I got 1 part, 2 parts per million and so forth. But the problem is that when we run our systems, especially on small bodies of water, the ORP will go so high, and it can vary a little bit, so it might be in the 900s and so forth. You'll never be able to run 1 part per million, because that 1 part per million will disappear. So you set your set point at 800 and 850. The ozone system will take it to 900, and you'll end up with 0 chlorine. You'll have beautiful water, don't get me wrong, and the oxidizing capacity is actually stronger than it was with that 1 part per million in there. But now if county comes in, you'll have nothing in there, even despite the fact you have a higher oxidizing capacity in the water. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
a little bit.
So
I'm not
we
gonna
have-
lie, this is a whole nother level, and that's why we are the best people to ask these questions, because we're gonna ask some basic questions. But I will say this, I love what you said. I heard on the podcast we were talking about in terms of water quality and things like that. I never knew this, that pets drinking water has like the same almost effect as people would drinking water. And if you wouldn't, you know, I guess drink pool water, why would you let your, you know, dog do it? Like, is that real? Because I mean, if you think about it like that, this kind of all makes a lot more sense why you would take it so serious in putting, you know, this type of technology into your pool.
I push to get drinking water quality out of my swimming pool. Now, both people laugh and why do you want drinking water quality? It's like, well,
I get it, but I'm not drinking any. But
no, I know, and I understand. But you know what? Here's the thing: is you take a kid. They already do statistics, and they go, how much water does a kid drink when he's in a swimming pool on a regular day? Do you happen to know what that is, Bob?
I no idea.
Okay.
But I can tell you that if when I swim, I always have water in my mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, you have it's in your cheek, or you're just it's a part of the process.
Right.
But your body absorbs it, and you're naturally going to drink some of it. But I'm saying I'm not like dying of thirst and I'm putting a solo cup and taking a drink. Like, I'm not doing that. But definitely understand that the human body is almost a magnet to water.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, I have clientele that are super sensitive to any type of chemicals in the water. As a matter of fact, they do not want anything in their water. So when we design their systems, we're taking this, either we've built systems just like this for backyard pools, believe it or not, which is crazy. You think, wow, they're gonna do that for that's what they want, then that's what we design.
Hey, be real with me. Some people, are they just trying to flex to the neighbors?
No,
Like,
actually.
oh yeah, you want to see my pool equipment?
You know what?
Because it is, I'm not gonna lie, it is sexy looking. When I see somebody and they got all that chrome back there, I'm like,
You're like,
look
wow.
at that.
You know what?
It's
I'll be
exhausting.
honest. I have not had a client yet that was that way, and I'm not gonna bash that type of a client or not.
You're awesome. I
My
didn't
main
expect you to
thing
answer
is
that.
I love helping people in general. So most of my clientele truly have issues, whether it's skin issues, health issues, and so forth. They've lived with it for many years. Bob here yet has to experience the love of his pool and his water that's going to do for him. He has no idea what he's going to really expect from this, but it really does change a lot of lives. And I could sit here and talk with you for hours about what it's done health-wise for different people. I mean, it would blow your mind.
What do you mean exactly? You haven't been in the water yet?
I've been in the pool, but I haven't. Mike keeps telling me that I need to just get in the pool almost like a therapy and just let the oxygen get absorbed into my body and that type of thing. But I want to segue for a second, and I think one of the things that drives us is we're putting 3-month-olds in the water, 2-month-olds. And some of my grandchildren have been in as young as soon as the umbilical cord comes off in our own pools. And I have 22 of them. So 22 grandchildren, yes. So my children had children, which was very surprising.
Do you know all their names?
Yes. Yes, I don't know their birthdays.
That is
I know my
impressive.
children's birthdays, but I don't know their. But again, from our point of view is, we are making a commitment to a mom or a dad of a 2-month-old that your baby's going to be fine in here, and we wind up with, again, you're taking them in the water, and then you're taking them in the shower, and I can see the difference of the kids from 22 years ago and getting in chlorinated water, and where the chlorine was aging out a little bit, and doing, we had a 200-gallon tank, and what was the efficacy of the chlorine 10 days, 2 weeks in, and that type of thing. And I can see now that we don't get the complaints about eczema or scaly skin or dry skin, and from not only the teachers but the parents. And so when we think about backfloating a little kid in the water 3 or 4 months, we don't submerge them before 6 months. So we're very cautious about that. But at the same point, they are getting water poured over their head, and they are putting their ears in the water and those kinds of things. So it's very important to us that the experience for the child and the parent be the best it can possibly be.
I'm not going to want to swim anywhere else.
Good, that's good.
They're going to come here, and everywhere they go, they're going to be like, oh, this water quality.
How many kids did you say you had?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you, because my last experience wasn't very good, and my daughters haven't been in the swim school we took them to for a couple months now. But there was a few things that really kind of irked me. One is that pretty much everybody that worked there had no idea, like if the pool was a salt pool, chlorine, if it was on exceptional water system. They had no idea at all. They tried feeding me some lines that I knew was kind of BS. And the other thing is, there was one day when a teacher was actually with my daughter and had her back turned to one of the kids. It was on this like floating, to me it looks like a skate ramp, like a box with a rail on it, and they're supposed to hold on to it where it's submerged in the water. And the kid like jumped, and nobody saw this, and immediately like I jumped up because it looked like nobody else was seeing this. Like the lifeguard is walking in circles, didn't see it, and the kid like went down and finally turned. But it was insanely like scary to see that happen. My brother, when I was a kid, I've said this before, but I found my brother face down in a pool when I lived in LA, and luckily they got him out. But man, he had so many issues, like hearing issues. He was like deaf, he had lost most of his hearing for a few years, and it's a very serious issue. But how, when it comes to your swim school, how knowledgeable is everybody in the facility at all times? And especially you've got a background in being a lifeguard too.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm the worst person to have on a pool deck, because I was an ocean lifeguard in New York City with a chair. The other chair was, I don't know, 75 yards away. And I always tell my kids that we work 9 to 6, 6 days a week, and I made $54 a week. So, but
Did you ever go out into the ocean though? Did you ever see somebody in distress out in the ocean and you had to actually?
We probably averaged 30 to 40 saves a summer, but
wow.
That would be bathtub saves. We would go out to somebody and tell them to stand up. They would be so disoriented in the waves and the surf that they were struggling, and they wouldn't put their feet down. But I've been part of a couple of significant rescues, which is traumatizing, and you never forget it. And I was not the principal, but we supported the guys that went out initially, and it teaches you to be alert. And we have we ever had a child step off a bench? Yes. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen, but that's why we have a water watcher. That's why we have a deck supervisor. That's why we have small group classes. We train constantly on no back turning. We keep the kids in front of us. We talk all the time about triangle teaching, so that you can see all 4 kids or 3 kids or 2 kids at the same time. So it's an ongoing training. One of the things that I'm very proud that we do is before every shift, 15 minutes before every shift, and everybody's paid for it, they come in, and our team comes in, and we call it the Monday memo. It's read at every shift, every day, every week, and it has a safety tip in it, has a safety reminder in it, has news and updates and things like that. So we're constantly sharing information with our team. Now, is a typical 18 to 22-year-old swim instructor going to be able to talk about what Mike just talked about, or ozone or whatever? But hopefully our managers would, and our supervisors would have at least a rudimentary knowledge of, we use Myox, which is we make our own chlorine with salt and electrocharging it and that kind of thing. And then, whatever else we're doing, UV, VFD drives, and the whole gamut.
But at least if you can't explain it in full, at least have the courtesy to give a vague description and maybe at least ask why you're asking. Because if your kid, is there something I can help with? Has your kid got some kind of rash on their body? Is there something that we can get this figured out? Because as a business, that's what you want, is you want that feedback so that we can make something better. Or I just invested $1 million into something. I probably need to have it tweaked, or I need to have something looked at if this is causing these types of issues. But
and I think that comes back to where we are right now with COVID. I think that we've shared that information with our parents, and as they come in, they can see what's going on. And if anybody wants to walk in the pump room, actually our pump room in Mesa, Kathy wanted it built like a brewery. So we have glass, so you can see the equipment. You can, from the lobby, it's not as great as a brewery, big, but we've got a glass door and a glass window, and you could see into the pump room and see the equipment and see our guys walking in there and checking it.
Oh, that's really cool. So is there exceptional water systems in every location right now, or just how many locations total are there?
Some of our systems are, not everything.
We haven't upgraded everybody to the standard here, but we've got VFD drives and UV and CO2. We have a mix of different filtration. We have sand at Mesa, we have cartridges at 32nd Street in Peoria, and then we have the glass media out here. So we've had a long-going monthly contract with Mike and his team to come in and survey our equipment. And we actually just had a conversation two or 3 days ago about, what's next, what's aging out, what's the timing on our UV equipment, when do we have to change the bulbs, what's the life of our, over the break we looked at our impellers. We closed at Christmas for 10 days, so we look at our impellers and say, what's their lifespan on our pumps and what's going on with that, and changing out the various feeding tubes, and his team has helped us get on a preventive maintenance schedule as opposed to crisis maintenance.
Yeah, so if I was to say, do I go after the masses of what I do? And the answer is no, I don't. I go after people that truly want to make a difference, whether it's for their patrons, for their swim schools, for whoever they're serving, per se, because essentially we're a service company, and I've kind of dedicated my time and efforts in researching technologies and so forth to benefit people. So no, I don't go after masses. If people really don't want our system, aren't really looking for that level of quality, I'm not interested either. I won't pursue it, per se. And like I said, I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's just, I'm interested in helping people who really want to be helped. Bob has done, and I don't mean this in a brown-nosing way, but Bob knows I love him. He's been working with him forever. He cares about his facility. He cares about his people. So, and I see
genuinely.
that. Yeah, he genuinely cares about his people. So I love working for people who actually care and give a rat about people. So will I help you? Absolutely, I will help you. And I'll help you get to that level.
And I think with, time and people experience more swimming pool water with systems like yours on it, like maybe there could just be this huge shift in the US where this is something that we adapt. Maybe we start taking showers and respecting water and respecting the equipment, because it's kind of a last thought. I mean, the pool equipment is the heart of everything. That is what's, making this possible, because it's a very unnatural thing to have a body of water. It's not a stream, it's not a river, it's not an ocean. It is a man-made hole that we are trying to filter and make it, pretty blue, clear, 24/7. But I love what you said, and actually you provide this product to people that genuinely, care about the health of the water.
And let me share. I asked Mike to take a look at Barrows Neurological Center had a pool, and then did you look at Ryan House too? Yeah, okay. So Barrows, which is a neurological center here, they have a pool that they use for therapy, and it was a mess. And I think it's one of the challenges that anybody that is going to think about doing this, the structure that they had was exactly what he was talking about. Small filter, 2-inch lines, and different things like that. And he was kind enough to go in and work with them to upgrade, as much as possible their product. And they were putting spine victims in, and they're putting other kind of people with physical disabilities while they're in rehab therapy at Barrows. So, that kind of being able to step in, and even, I guess I'm saying, if you don't have all of it, he can help you get the rest, do the best you can, based upon your physical limitations. If you're not going to dig your pool up and put in 4-inch or 6-inch lines, you can look at different things to make your process better, and you structure your process at night and different things like that that'll make your shorter term day better. And I think that we've been delighted by the growth that we've had and the opportunity, thankfully, to have the capital. I mean, there's no question this is an expensive product and commitment, from our end. And I think that we reap the benefit day after day.
Right.
There's a testament into what Bob put into this facility, and this is actually huge. Most of the places we work with across the board during these times, even despite the fact of this whole COVID come in, Bob did not value engineer a single piece of equipment for his facility. Zero. Nothing. And that's huge, because most people, well, let's cut this out, let's cut that out. Zero. So that says a lot to his commitment for his people that he serves, both his employees as well as his clients as well, which is unheard of.
I'm curious, has that been a difficult thing in relaying that message to your customers and to your team? Like, I mean, it's such a big investment in, putting all of this equipment in, and I know why you're doing it, but has it been difficult to relay that message, or is it kind of the water speaks for itself?
Yes, I think the cleanliness speaks for itself. I think probably our most important thing that people look at are the changing rooms clean. Is our staff articulate? When they walk in we used to have a front desk person who was in her 80s, Dixie, and she always used to say the swim lesson begins at the front door. So our ability to greet people, get the kids, make sure they're comfortable. Do most people care about the technology that's behind that door? No, but our staff does, and we educate them about it. And they come out of the water, they go in the pool, and probably when we tour people, 70% of them say, this doesn't smell like a pool. So it's a combination of the quality of the water and the quality of the air handling system and different things like that. And I grew up in New York City. I remember swimming in a YMCA where we were in the basement, in high school doing our swim tests or whatever it was, Red Cross, life-saving. And there were puddles of water on the edges of the windows, and you just I can't think of the amount of chlorine in the air in there and that type of thing. But I think people are looking for our clients particularly. It's like anybody. You're a parent. You've said that. When you walk into a place, you want the table to be clean. You want the silverware to be clean. You want
I'm the worst. I'm judging every single place because it's crazy. You could have like the oldest dirt or whatever old building, and if you could just keep it clean, it's like a gas station. Yeah, it might be ran down, but if you just kept it clean and kept your bathrooms clean, you have no idea how far that goes with people walking in your store like, wow, the walls are clean, the floor's clean. It's an old building, but everything, you can tell people try.
Mm-hmm.
You get an A for effort.
Yeah, we've had the same. They don't do all of our swim schools every night, but we have a couple that have worked for us for 21 years who have cleaned our facilities since a month after we opened. And they set the standard. So they're the people that we look to, where the cleanliness of the pool deck, the cleanliness of the windows, the cleanliness of the changing rooms. Where are we? Is the garbage out? Is the diaper pail changed? All that other stuff. So it's a combination of making sure. Then, if the parent wants information, if they're knowledgeable, we had a dad here maybe 3 weeks ago who he spent 45 minutes in the pump room. But he understood what he was looking at. He was very nervous about COVID, and he wanted to come in and see the facility. We were actually on a break, not teaching right at that point, but he came in and
engineer.
And yeah, kind of. I'm not sure what he did. I think he was in the construction business of some type. But we spent back there looking at the filters, looking at our tests. People are amazed that we test 3 times a day. Right.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you already asked this, but do you have an in-house maintenance team, or you have? Yes,
and we do both. We have people that are cleaning throughout the day, and then we have some exterior janitorial services that we contract with in 2 of the locations. But most of it is the major is this one couple and their small little company, and then another commercial company, and then our team does it when we're quieter, and like right now. I mean, we're probably deep cleaning here 3 nights a week, and the team is handling it the other nights, so that type of thing.
But you're podcasting right now, so everybody's up here.
Yeah.
So Mike, I'm curious, what in a situation like this, do you go in and help a maintenance team understand equipment that you have installed?
Yeah, like in this situation, what we're doing for Bob is we put together small segments, video segments. So not only do we teach his team that, but we'll put in small video segments. Here's how you backwash the filters, go through the process. Here's how you look at this, here's how you do this. So different things that he would do or they would do on a daily basis, we'll do different segments for them, little short videos so they can see it. So anytime they get a new employee or something, we like, here, we're gonna sit down and watch the video and you can see how it is, and then go through that process.
Is there any possibility you guys developing some like VR training? I used to laugh about that, but I think that would be truly amazing to have VR technology where people could be in their office or home and just kind of like look through where you could actually demonstrate, how to turn things and what to look for, and, make sure to watch your step when you're in here because blah, blah, blah. Like,
That sounds cool. Yeah. I mean,
I don't know a guy,
FaceTime.
but
Yeah.
that would be sweet. FaceTime.
FaceTime. We've had
There we go.
We've had FaceTime calls with somebody say, all right, turn it around. Tell me okay, look at this. So,
Yeah.
that kind of
virtual,
technology is available. But
Yeah, for sure.
Well, what final message, I guess, would you like the listeners to remember about Hubbard Family Swim School and Exceptional Waters?
well, I have to be focused on Hubbard Family Swim School and say that if you could do anything with your child under the age of 6, you should put them in the water on a regular basis because they will be, no question, smarter, brighter, faster, that whole thing, just like woebegone type of kid, And then I think the other is to people in the industry, it's a 3-legged stool, right? It's your water, it's your teachers, and it's your service. So, you can't have one. You can't build a strong program that's going to teach a lot of kids if your water quality isn't there, or if your curriculum isn't there, or your customer service isn't there. So you need to make sure you're stable on the 3 legs of the stool. And, again, you're putting money in. And again, we're lucky in what we built, and it is painful right now, honestly, to look at what we put in here in this time frame where we're operating at a much lower volume than we were. But we're confident we'll get through it and come back and that type of thing. So I think that you can't skimp on the front end. You need to make sure that what your vision is. Now, this vision is way bigger at 32nd Street in Phoenix than we ever thought that we would be.
Sure.
But we're lucky that we had people that coached us and gave us the right sizing and different things like that. And then not be afraid to change. Not be afraid to take out one system if it's not meeting your standards and put in a new one. And change with change. And we've even, as I mentioned earlier, we've left and gone back. We had a MIOC system in our Peoria location that was not as stable. It was outdoors, and we changed. And then they made some changes to their technology, and we're now again put them back in. So I think the ability to be flexible and keep your eye on the horizon.
Very good. Mike, anything else?
really, water quality is one of the most important things that we've learned over the years, and ultimately you can't expect much from your water unless you treat it right. So, in a nutshell, I think most of our newest motto that we've come up with is providing healthy water for humanity. So that's one of the things that we really push as far as understanding water to a different level. But
let me answer your question one other way. Surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with experts. And if you do that, if an area you don't know and things like that, you got to trust them. So do your due diligence, and then make sure you're with your team, whether it's your computers, whether it's your staff, whether it's your experts outside. And once you have them, you gotta trust them, and you gotta hold their feet to the fire, for performance. But once you make that decision, I never thought about what Mike said about re-engineering this project, because that's not us. That's not how we think.
Sure.
But we also trusted the recommendations he and his team made to be where we want to be. And I want to be where we want to be in 22 and 23, and this facility has to be able to handle that.
Right. Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you. That's very valuable advice.
And where can people find out more information on each of your places?
HubbardsSwim.com, HUBBARDSWIM.com, and love to reach out. And Bob@HubbardsSwim is my email, and we're happy to talk to people about what their journey is. And if we don't know it, we'll get you over to somebody who does.
Awesome.
What about you, Mike?
Exceptional Water Systems, it's exwsystems.com, and of course Mike Geyer, Geyer, at exwsystems.com.
Perfect, and everything will be in the show notes as well, so we can have links to all your guys' businesses and resources. And just want to say thank you once again. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. This was a very good episode, and we think people will enjoy it.
Well, thank you. Well prepared. You guys are well prepared, so we appreciate the attention to detail and your pre-knowledge. That's great.
Yeah, you're welcome.